Let's go to the Barb's Harley Davidson Sports Hotline and welcome into the locker room. He's a writer from Sports Illustrated, Ben Pickman. What's up, Ben?
How's it going?
All right, Ben. Listen, Ben. I saw your short video post. I read a couple things that you did. I said, you know what? We got to get Pickman on, man. Get some young, fresh, insight, some fresh blood in here. What's up, man?
I'm doing well. Happy to talk Sixers this morning.
All right, so let me ask you the question. What do you think the biggest reason for the Sixers' early success? What's the biggest reason?
I think it's two things that are very much connected. I think one, it's new lineup combinations with Doc Rivers, right? We saw in the Brett Brown era that Brett Brown seldom played Embiid and Simmons together. They averaged just around 22 and 23 minutes per game in the past two seasons playing together. And currently with Doc Rivers, that number is up to 28 minutes of Embiid and Simmons. And so when you get your two best guys on the floor more, obviously makes a big difference. And what that translates to is on the defensive end, right? We've seen Philly have one of the best defenses in the league. Before Thursday's loss to the Nets, they were the league's best defense, and they dropped to just number 2 behind the Cavs, and that will probably change after that Thursday defeat. So Philly's just being stout on the defensive end of the floor. Of course, Embiid really helps in that regard, and they're limiting teams in the paint, and having Embiid and Simmons, of course, on the floor more makes a big difference.
And Ben, there was a lot of talk about, especially over the last couple of years, of a little dysfunction within the Sixers organization, especially with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid's friendship or lack thereof. How do you perceive this, from the national standpoint?
I mean, I'm one who says that I like the Embiid-Simmons pairing still. I know with the James Harden trade talk hovering, there's a lot of conversation. Should you split them up? But I'm of the mind that right now you should still keep them together, right? You understand Simmons' age compared to Harden and his contract status. And Philly does still have a really strong young asset in Ben Simmons. And what we've seen early on this year is really encouraging, right? I understand the kind of potential conversations and rumors and all that kind of surrounded Embiid and Simmons previously. But this season, we've seen some significant steps. And with Doc Rivers playing them both together, the team has made significant strides. And you watch as Daryl Morey more broadly has retooled the roster, adding some three-point shooting and say Seth Curry and Danny Green. And we've seen some encouragement and improvement from the Sixers so far.
Yeah, hey, Ben, it's Scotty McKay. 3 weeks ago, I mentioned on the show here that I felt that Doc Rivers' number one job was to make sure that these two guys get together, whether it be, hanging out together, playing video games together, somehow find a way off the court to get them to come together as friends and want to play for each other. How important do you think is part of Doc Rivers' job, is to make sure that those guys are, coming together?
Oh, I think it's, one of the, if not the most important thing he can do, right? If you see drama and strife between your two best players and potential franchise centerpieces, that's a sign of troubling things to come. And I think one of the successes of Doc, in past years and also right now is his ability to get high-level talent and players who, are advocating for themselves and might have technically bigger egos, so to speak, but getting them to play together and buy into a team concept. And so I think we're seeing that right now, right, with Embiid and Simmons and how they're meshing together, right? We haven't heard any rumblings of any forms of distrust. And all we've heard of is kind of positive comments, and we've seen the results, right? Philly's off to a league best start so far. They're the top of the Eastern Conference and certainly have shown significant signs of improvement.
We're talking with Ben Pickman of Sports Illustrated. You can follow him on sportsillustrated.com, read his stuff, or Twitter. Follow him on Twitter at Ben Pickman. And Ben, obviously they're 7-2 and it's early in the season and they're winning. It's how they handle losing that is the biggest question, because when teams start to have troubles or go through a stretch where things aren't going as well as they want them to, that's where we're going to see what type of makeup this team has.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And the other thing that is important when you mention the record 7-2, the schedule has been pretty soft. If not, I had a colleague who described it as a cupcake schedule earlier this week. And that's kind of the reality, right? They really haven't beat anybody. You look at, 2 Wizards wins, and maybe the Wizards were expected to be in the play-in tournament or a little better, but they've underperformed so far. Charlotte, you beat them twice, right? Orlando, who is a playoff team in name, but really what are you expecting of Orlando? Obviously, Toronto's gotten off to a really terrible start, and the Knicks, and certainly they've overperformed right now, but they're still the Knicks at their core right now. So, Philly's wins are a little bit soft. And so everything is nice when you're beating these bad teams that you frankly should beat. The question, as you mentioned, Billy, it's a good point that when things go bad or when you start to play, the Celtics and the Pacers right now, who look great, the Nets when the Nets are at full strength, not just even at short strength like they were on Thursday night, but when you start to play those teams and maybe you pick up some losses, that will really be a true test of Doc Rivers and how he's able to pair Embiid and Simmons together.
Hey, Ben, I just asked this to Billy right before you came on, but are you surprised by their start or their cohesiveness so far this season?
I think the thing that is most surprising is how some of the role players have fit in, right? I look at Seth Curry. Seth Curry, and obviously he's dealing with COVID-19 right now, and we hope for the best for him. And of course, there's some uncertainty that's hovering over the team as we speak. But I look at Seth Curry, and he's shooting 60% from three. He's averaging 17 points per game, right? He's fit in seamlessly into Doc Rivers and this new system, right? Tobias Harris, we've also seen him improve, right? He's shooting 51% from the field and 45% from three. And after a down year last year, he looks much better. And so I think I am a little bit surprised at how well kind of those pieces, and Danny Green as well, have fit in. But I'm not surprised that he's starting to get the most out of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. I think that was kind of Doc Rivers's, I think that was one of the goals he had coming into this year and getting the best out of them. And I'm sure that was something he talked about in the interview process, is wanting to get the most out of them. And he's done just that, at least so far.
We're talking with Ben Pickman from Sports Illustrated. You can follow him on Twitter at Ben Pickman. And Ben, what's the national view of the Sixers right now? From your perspective, I mean, we're here in Philadelphia, and we're obviously biased, and people have it locally a different opinions, maybe people nationally. But what's the national scuttlebutt as far as the potential of the 76ers?
I mean, in my mind, I think everyone looks at them and says, at least the top end talent is there, right, with Embiid and with Simmons. And of course, they're always an interesting franchise, and they have been for years, right? People are always interested in how the Sixers are doing. But I do think, they are still a little bit of a tier below, say, the Bucks. And I was really high on the Nets coming into this year, and I still put Philadelphia below a healthy Nets team. I think, they're right there with Boston and Indiana, maybe. Atlanta, we've been surprised by. Miami as well. I think they're in that kind of second or third tier of the Eastern Conference, but have the talent to get up into the top tier and potentially, make a conference finals, or if not do more. The talent is there. It's just a matter of, does it all come together against the best teams at the right time?
Now, Ben, we're giving away a great prize package, Sixers prize package today at 609-403-0973 is the text board. The question is, what's the biggest reason for the Sixers' early success? We'll read your text messages after we get finished with Ben. But Ben, growing up, I remember getting Sports Illustrated as a little kid. Had a subscription my whole life. If you made the cover of Sports Illustrated, I mean, that was the top, right? So I just got to ask you, how cool was it to finally get your chance to write for Sports Illustrated?
Well, hey, first, Billy, tell them you only got the one issue each year.
Right? Was this for the swimsuit?
Right. You didn't get the other ones.
Definitely real cool. I mean, I think getting something in print, is still incredibly validating. We've seen obviously major changes in the newspaper and magazine industry, but there is still something very rewarding about something lasting, like a print copy of having a story and a big spread in a print issue. That feeling is certainly memorable.
Well, listen, man, continued success. We love reading your work. I really appreciate. I reached out to you, said, we need some new blood, some different perspectives, and I really appreciate you taking the time out to come on the program. And thanks a lot. We'll do it again sometime.
Absolutely appreciate you having me.
All right, there he is, Ben Pickman from Sports Illustrated on the Barb's Harley-Davidson Sports Hotline.